Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Digital India Podcast on FIR Podcast Network. This show is weekly updates brought to you by staff and students of Web Marketing Academy. This show gives you the latest updates in the digital marketing world in India. Today is the 7th of July 2015 and we are giving you updates of the last 7 days. The one major headline for this week has been mostly India celebrating the Digital India Week. Our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji launched a massive project that amounts to close to about 80 billion US dollars. The program is aimed at delivering good governance to citizens by synchronized and coordinated engagement with both central government and state government. We'll have an extended discussion on this topic after our weekly updates, so stay tuned. Here are the major headlines for today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's social media diplomacy can help ties. There's a report from China. The second story we're talking about is government readying comprehensive dossier on media coverage of events and preparing a list of defaulters. The third story we have for today is about Modi ji telling us ignore negative criticism. He tells this to the followers on social media. And before we move on to the detailed stories, we have a tip coming your way.
So this is more of a tool than a tip. There is a site called Soovle. Soovle. You type in a search. What it does is it actually displays related or suggested searches from various sources. It could be from Google, from YouTube. So the most popular searches for that specific keywords, it will pull up those keywords and give you a map of various other relevant searches. So check out that tool. If you're going to work on a blog post, for example, it could be an ideal tool to work on. You can get some ideas for your blog post.
According to the Economic Times, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's social media diplomacy can help ties, says a report. A leading English daily of China lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's diplomatic initiatives via social media, saying that it will play a constructive role in the relationship between India and China. When Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on his 60th birthday on his Sina Weibo account on July 1st, he once again showed the high value he attaches to diplomacy through social media accounts. The Global Times stated in an opinion piece headlined, Modi's social media diplomacy can help build Sino-Indian understanding. The article is based on an interview with Zhao Genchang, the director of South Asia Studies at the Shanghai Institute of International Studies, noting that Modi's account in Sina Weibo, the Chinese version of Twitter, has tens of thousands of followers. It stated, yet this is not a special move, for he did similar things for US, Russia and Japan, through which he has delivered a message to the world that India is more open and is keeping up to date with the latest trends. According to Zhao, despite India being the largest democracy in the world, there is an impression that it is a rather conservative nation and negative news about the country emerges from time to time. Therefore, Modi is trying to provide a new perspective to India in the international community through his public diplomacy. Communicating to people abroad is one part of this, the article stated. Such public diplomacy will also play a constructional role in the relationship between India and China. That was our lead story, and before we move on to the next story, we have another awesome tip coming your way.
Talking about blog posts, the second tool is called HubSpot Blog Topic Generator. You just go to Google and search for HubSpot Blog Topic Generator. What it does is it actually, if you go there and type in some words, it will pull up some ideas for your blog topics. So based on that, you're going to create some blog post. It's a good tool. It's from HubSpot. Check it out.
According to another story in Economic Times, the government is readying a comprehensive dossier on media coverage of events, and they're also preparing a list of defaulters. International Yoga Day, Smart Cities, Digital India. The Narendra Modi government clearly takes events very seriously, and it's begun tracking the effectiveness of its communication strategy by keeping a close watch on coverage by television channels, print, and social media. This is the first time such an exercise has been conducted. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has prepared a comprehensive dossier on how the media reported International Yoga Day, reporting that social media took a mostly neutral view while a third of the comments were positive. In its social analytics report, the ministry listed top influencers, those who tweeted content that influenced internet users on the event. The impact, it said, was 33% positive, with most appreciating Modi for taking yoga to the world and for creating a world record. 60% remained neutral while posting pictures. About 5% of posts were negative, it said, adding, some people commented that it is mere publicity gesture and government should focus on governance. The analysis started a day before and ended a day after the event to arrive at a broad picture. When the social media analytics was done on Yoga Rehearsal Day, 23% of the posts were encouraging, while some said the government was trying to steal limelight from important issues. But slowly the momentum picked up and we have over 2 lakh posts on Yoga Day alone, and the sentiment was largely positive or neutral. And before we move on to the next story, we have another tip.
My next tool is Mozcast, MOZCAST.com, from our good friends at Moz. This is actually a Google algorithm weather report. You can see a dashboard where you can see the weather for the last 5 days. If there was any changes in the Google algorithm, you will see a heat. So you can actually compare few days and see if there is any changes in the Google algorithm. So keeping an eye on these things and keeping an eye on your Google Analytics will be helpful.
The third story for today is Mr. Narendra Modi ji telling ignore negative criticism. That's what he's been telling the followers on social media. The story is from the Indian Express. Hit by a high voltage media campaign against his ministers, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has asked a group of social media users not to respond to negative comments and criticism and instead use the medium in a positive and constructive manner. Modi, who is under attack for his silence on recent controversies, has urged his supporters to indulge in action rather than discussions. While addressing nearly 100 hand-picked social media activists from across the country at an informal interaction at his residence hosted by MyGov, that's MYGOV, a Government of India platform, Modi, one of the most popular leaders on Twitter, asked them to ignore negative criticism. According to those who attended the program, he said that there's a lot of positive energy and we need to channelize it. The Prime Minister said we have to take constructive criticism and ignore the negative ones. That was what Arvind Gupta is quoted to have said. And Arvind Gupta is BJP's national technology head who also attended the interaction. And before we move on to our major discussion about Prime Minister launching the Digital India Week program in India, we have another tip coming your way.
My last tool is SpyFo. I'm sure you would have heard SpyFo. It is a paid tool. You get some data for the free version, but the paid version is a pretty good tool for those who are doing pay-per-click or Google AdWords campaigns. Now, what this tool does is it gives you competitor data. If you just type in your competitor or any keywords, it will find out who are the top bidders, what is their average cost per click, how much money they are paying. So all these things it will give. It's a pretty decent tool if you're running pay-per-click campaign. Until next week, this is Suresh. Thank you.
And now coming to the most interesting update from India, that's Digital India launched last week. And let me just give you a brief about what exactly Digital India is. It's a program that is expected to prepare India for the knowledge-based transformation and delivering good governance to citizens by synchronizing and coordinating engagement between both central government and state government. The program has been envisaged by the Department of Electronics and Information Technology that will also impact communications and IT, rural development, human resource development, and health other departments. The program will also benefit all states and union territories. The existing and the ongoing e-governance initiatives will be revamped to align them into the principles of Digital India. The vision of Digital India is to transform the country into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. It would ensure that the government services are available to citizens electronically. It would also bring in public accountability through mandated delivery of government service electronically. That is the brief that we have about Digital India, and this whole program is expected to cost close to about 80 billion US dollars. That's 80 billion US dollars. And to talk about the program, the pros and cons in a country like India, and a program that is being launched by the government itself, the first of its initiative in India, we have with us in the studio Suresh Babu, who is the CEO and founder of Web Marketing Academy. Welcome, Suresh.
Thank you, Mansi.
And we also have with us Monica, who is currently a consultant and a trainer at Web Marketing Academy. Welcome to the studio, Monica.
Hey Mansi, good to be here.
So let's start with this. We've heard about 80 billion US dollars as investments going into Digital India. What is your take on this, Monica?
I think the initiative is wonderful, and if it does show fruit, I would love to be, this is something really exciting, and the fact that we want to have an inclusive growth where we include the rural population as well. As of today, what happens is we have a lot of smart people, but because they do not have a conducive environment that supports their growth, they go outside. So it's like we have all this great stuff here and it gets harvested outside and is throwing light on other countries and not our own. So I hope Digital India is something that is going to change that.
Well, during the launch, Modi definitely mentioned that, if we're looking at startups, soon India is going to overtake a lot of countries and could be in the number 2 position right after the US when it comes to startup. However, he has definitely mentioned it during the launch. How come innovations like Google happen outside India when there are so much of, brilliant talent in India and so many startups coming up? What is your take on this, Suresh?
First, I'm excited about Digital India Week, because we named our podcast Digital India Podcast. I'm hoping that they're not going to come after us for the name Digital India Podcast. So, but yeah, it is a pretty extensive kind of initiative, and I think we need that. And especially, if you look at what the 3 S's, right, which they talked about, is absolutely important for a nation like us, where there are even people from rural areas are getting into this. So amazing. I'm looking forward for it. I think we are going to see already we are seeing a lot of startups and investments flowing, and lots of other companies coming and investing, looking at a bigger space. So this is going to change. I just can't wait to see everything.
Awesome. See, as I said, during the launch, Narendra Modi ji did point out that, when we look at innovations, India has not been able to contribute in the digital marketing world or the digital world in a huge way. So he has called for design in India. Monica, when we're looking at design in India, what do you think would be the hurdles? Why is it that, we have so many startups, we have some brilliant talent. You look at IT across the globe, there are Indians almost everywhere, and yet innovations are not happening in India. Why?
I'll just talk about, let's say the athletes of India. There are people who won gold medals and today they are on the street because we do not have a system that supports people after their peak. We are there till they have the laurels, and after that we don't have a system which supports them. That's the case with most people. If you see the Indian people who have risen very high, if you see their background is very humble. And the way they have risen is because of their own effort. It has not been because of support or sponsorship programs or support by the government. They get there once they gain visibility. But if we had scholarship programs at a ground level, if things were built in a way where, people, like our education system works on age, it doesn't work on the person's ability. If we could change these things at the ground level, I think it would make a lot of difference. If talent can be spotted early on and supported with both finance as well as innovative kind of methodologies, which encourage you to think out of the box. Our own culture itself creates the box within which we live. What do you think?
Correct. Yeah, I think I totally agree. One of the things, education, early education and the culture, especially, we guys are good in coding, right?
Right.
Why we are not good in design? Like if you look at, we don't have that design element, for example, that creative element in us. If we have a step-by-step process, we'll do that. We are used to do that, right? And if you notice, the way we grew up, we have to memorize. That is the why. See, the basic things are coming here. So we need to go by step by. Somebody should handhold us. Like we live with our parents even after getting married. See, all those things comes into place here where there is no thing for innovation, because we always rely upon somebody or the other for every single one of them. That is one of the things. And if you look at the early education system in India, was like that, right? I mean, what is that? Gurukul kind of system is like that, where we are strict, very strict, and you follow certain things, and that is how we've been come until now, and the education system is like that. So that's why if you see, there are lots of people who can code, but people who cannot innovate because there is so much of back-end, right?
The conformity is a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
Very few people have the guts to do something really different, and they don't see success immediately.
Okay.
We have social expectations and things like that,
right?
Which is something which we can become constrictive. But what I feel is Digital India with Narendra Modi, one thing is that he's open and he's living in the present. Now, for example, Suresh, we used to keep saying that digital marketing is still not in the colleges.
Correct.
Had it been in the colleges some years back, by today we would have reached that level of maturity where we could be the thought leaders and tell people what digital marketing is.
Right.
But because we get to things so late, and that is because we do not have an open mindset, we are not always constantly on the lookout for things that are going to happen, we don't have that far-sighted vision. With Digital India, there will be people who will come up who will have that.
Yeah.
The people who do have that don't get the opportunity to rise. With Digital India, I think they will have the infrastructure which will support it, and then they will become the leaders of tomorrow, and they will have that long-term vision, and they will drive Digital India for us.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, see, for example, our dependency is so much, even when we grow up as kids, the next generation is going to change. The current generation is going to change. But our generations, when we grow up, we are like so much when we are kids, even like babies, the parents are so protective, our grandparents are so protective, and then the system of our joint family system also brings us, doesn't allow us to think, innovatively. We are stuck in that particular thing.
So basically, lateral thinking and out-of-box thinking is something that has to be inculcated at a grassroots level, much at the age of, let's say, a pre-Montessori or a pre-KG level, where you start with creativity and then just let them be and grow it.
Exactly. See, now one more thing is, we don't teach all those things. Our parents say if you don't get first rank or something, you have nothing. I mean, others are all like way behind, right? Early stages itself, we have grown up like that. But if somebody is going to say, I like drawing or I like football, as a kid in India, we never thought about those things.
But then again, when we say these are optional, let's say that the child excels in art or the child excels in sports, why will parents not want them to get into it? Because they know that there is no future in this. Right. And that will not happen until the initiative is taken to create that as a specialized field as well, in which they can monetize it as well.
Correct.
Right now, apart from the academic streams, the entrepreneurs are doing a great job because they are at least leaving the standard, it's changing the status quo. Right. So that's cool.
Right.
But not everyone has the potential to be an entrepreneur. But if we take the large mass and we give them these opportunities early age, for example, let's think of information. I didn't have access to a lot of information at the age these kids have access to.
Right.
My son gets homework in which he is asked to, just read up on the internet, and he's 9, to explore things. Now, we didn't have these options.
Correct.
We have these options today. And our kids will have that exposure, and if they also get the infrastructure with it, The potential
Nothing
is
like
amazing.
it. Yeah,
Right.
nothing like it. We've just outlined a lot of things that's happening in India right now, and we've looked at the challenges. And now we're going to talk about how a sound digital India, basically the 9 pillars of digital India, is going to address all these things that we've just spoken about. But before that, I want to talk about one thing that is going to be a huge hindrance for anybody wanting to put digital India into place, and that is about Indian languages. If you look at the amount of languages that we have in India, it's not going to be easy. See, all over the world, you've got one definite language. In the US, it's just English. When you go to China, it's just Chinese. So there's one definite language. But if you look at India, 32 states, and if you look at the kind of dialects which change every 40 kilometers in India, it's a huge challenge. So they've also mentioned under Digital India that digital empowerment of citizens will pay emphasis on universal digital literacy and the availability of digital resources and services in Indian language. Now, Suresh, my question to you is, how easy or how difficult is it going to be? And would there be, videos are actually catching up this year, but would formats of content be a huge question mark?
See, I think it's not about the format, it's about the awareness. These kinds of formats can be developed easily with all the technology. That is what the thing is. I see this as an opportunity, right? A lot of languages, great, more opportunities, right? And Google, Facebook, and all the companies, including the government, is taking initiative for languages. Now, technology and language, it's a great thing, because what is stopping the rural area is both the language barrier and the technology, which is what this Digital India is empowering, right? So I think it's going to be in Narendra Modi's website, narendramodi.in. He was having this digital dialogue, right? Mm-hmm. So what he talks about, he gave some example of one person in somewhere in the rural area. He had a meeting in a school where these people came in and addressed the talk, but he saw a lot of people, women especially, taking pictures from the phone, and he talked about that in that website. Right. So he gave an example that he went and asked, it seems, okay, you are taking pictures, what do you do with the pictures? So they said, we are going to take these pictures and we are going to upload it in a computer and we are going to print it out. Okay, so they are aware of what can be done. It is just giving them awareness and telling them, nowadays I don't think so. We need awareness, especially in the rural area. The kids who grow up, they will educate their parents. Right. So for me, it's an opportunity, and I think it is going to still grow. And the technology and the companies investing in this is going to, make it much more easier. What do you think, Monica?
So internet truly gives people wings. That is there. Now they already are smart. There is no doubt. Just because rural, urban does not make any difference. People are really smart.
Correct.
And if they have access to technology, they are doing wonderful things. They are already doing wonderful things. It is nothing which is new. But if we also support them with digital infrastructure as well as physical infrastructure. So there are still places in the country where we don't have roads. Now there's some effort has been made, but there are still places like that.
Right.
If we could connect those kind of places with digital media, if businesses could flourish there and they could generate income and then they could themselves support physical infrastructure, it would be a wonderful thing to see. Those would be stories to tell.
I'm actually a very pictorial person where I can actually envision. My village does not have roads. Okay, so if I come to think of it and then have the digital literacy the way you think about it, it's going to be huge for us.
Right.
Okay, it's going to be so easy for us. It doesn't have to be that our parents have to go back to school again. They can still learn languages. They can still learn a lot of things at home, and access to Google from the kind of places that we are. Oh, it's going to transform my village into something very huge.
Yeah.
Because I see in a village where we've hardly 6 houses, 7 houses, okay, and there are still wild cats coming in and roaming around the houses. It's that kind of a village, and because of that, every house is actually having 1 or 2 entrepreneurs. They're forced to. It's not like you can go out, venture out, and do some businesses. You're calling people and they'll happily come and work for you. It's not the case. So imagine Google or any infrastructure for that place. Imagine things like that coming into a village like that, and every entrepreneur in a house making it big. It's going to be huge for India. It's going to be huge for them, for that village actually.
And the thing is, it doesn't always have to be something which requires urban development. There are people who can actually take the jobs which rural people do and improve there itself.
Correct.
It's not like they have to leave the village and go to the city to earn.
Yes.
If you have a good thing going in the village from which people can make their living, I'm sure the villagers would never want to leave the village.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
it's their land, it's their life.
Yes.
But they go out because they're forced to earn money and they can't do it in the village because the infrastructure is not there. With internet, with technology,
Everything,
it
yeah.
could change.
Change, exactly.
It could change.
Absolutely
huge
change.
potentials.
So, Mansi, why don't we just talk a little bit about the Digital India initiative? What are the things that you're going to talk in the stories?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we're going to talk about it right here. See, I'm going to talk about the 9 pillars on which they want to, bring about this huge change and make India digital. Okay. See, the first pillar they're talking about is broadband highways. Now, this covers 3 subcomponents, namely broadband for rural, broadband for all urban, and national information infrastructure. So these 3 things is what they want to put in place on broadband highways. The second one is global information. They're talking about common service centers and post offices as multi-service centers. Remember, we're talking about post offices going away, shutting down.
Right.
Now, these post offices which have the infrastructure, there's brick and mortar there, they are going to actually make it into multi-service centers.
Excellent.
And post offices are available across the country, just about everywhere. Okay, a total of 150,000 post offices are proposed to be converted into multi-service center. Department of Posts would be the nodal department to implement Digital India. So that way they're trying to connect every nook and corner of the country. Okay, and then they're talking about universal access to mobile connectivity. Now this initiative is going to focus on network penetration and fill the gaps in connectivity in the country. Altogether, 42,300 uncovered villages will be covered for providing universal mobile connectivity in the country. Any thoughts on that? Now, internet connectivity and mobile connectivity is a huge issue in the country. They're talking about just 42,000 other villages when we have lakhs and lakhs of it. So how do you think Digital India is going to, as a program, how do you think it's going to bloom in infrastructure like this?
See, I think it's going to take some time. It's it's all nice and good to see all these things. But in reality, to put that into practice, it's going to take a long time. I mean, the same thing that we saw Metro, right? Metro, we were expecting in 2013, it went to 15, 16. So it is the nature of our political system, right, where it will take some time. It will be good in papers and good in this thing, but when it comes to reality and implementation, it's going to take way more time than we thought. So that we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, and they're also talking about the 4th pillar being the electronics manufacturing. Now there was a policy document EDF that was released, and Modi quickly spoke about it, where they're talking about a net import of 0 by the time it's 2020. Is this ever going to happen?
I think, if that happens, there'll be a lot of things like we are closing, right? It is like closing doors for other countries. Am I right? Is that what that
electronic
means?
imports? Yes.
Yeah. See, that is a little bit because, we are expecting other countries to, for example, we want US to have more Indians visas, right? Now, if this is the case, the other countries also want to, reach out to India, and
Right.
it's like closing the doors, and that's going to have maybe a little bit of negative kind of a thing from other countries. I don't know. It's just my take. It's going to have something. So, even now, right? Amazon and other big players want to have investment and want to invest a lot of things in India, but because of the government rules and regulations, it's not happening, right? So that will also take us to a little bit on the backstage.
Yeah, I think so, because, for example, we are given the advantage of cost when
Right.
other players come into the picture. The environment stays competitive.
Correct.
When you restrict that, it becomes like the whole ground of sole players.
Right.
And in the bid to do so, we should not become another China.
Correct.
There are places where we go into, and if it's electronic, the first thing they ask is, please don't give me something made in China,
Yeah.
because that is how it has become.
Right.
So it should not be that in the bid to do so, we compromise on the quality and end up losing out on other things, because it's the electronics which are really doing all the job for us today. We
Correct.
rely very heavily on electronics.
Right.
The technology we're talking about, all about Digital India, is running on electronics.
Yes.
We cannot go with something substandard and then expect that to scale. It's not going to happen.
See, the Apple device that's being assembled and manufactured, I think that's Foxconn, right?
Mhm.
Now they are trying to come to India and set up a plant here. So maybe it's still going to be Indian manufacture. So would that make a difference? Instead of us importing things from there, people actually come to India, set up a plant here, give us our jobs, and still do things. Because see, let's face the fact that India is a growing market for anything like iPhone, right? So people coming and setting up their plants here, is that what Digital India is aiming at?
I think that is also our Prime Minister is trying to address, which is he's trying to balance it. Right, he's saying, okay, you make in India, at the same time, we want to do. So he's trying to do his best, and I think that we are going to see both things, and always there will be challenges, right?
Always.
Yeah.
And the fifth point they're talking about, the fifth pillar, is public internet access, giving access in public places to the internet so that people have access to information on the go. The sixth one is about IT training for jobs. They're talking about 1 crore students from smaller towns and villages to be trained for IT sector jobs over a period of 5 years.
1 crore?
Yes.
1 crore is how much?
This is
okay. It's about 10 million.
Okay, 10 million?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah.
10 million students from smaller towns and villages to be trained, and then there are BPOs that would be set up in every northeastern state. Now, northeastern state has always been a huge question mark when it comes to opportunities. Forget the digital world as such. When it comes to opportunities,
this is something really good to hear, because
Yes.
it was much needed, and there have been so many cases. Now in Bangalore, we have so many northeast.
Yeah.
Kids,
Plenty.
right? So many of them, and it's so sad when you read something like this in which they are differentiated, or it's like they are another part of India.
Yeah.
It's something that is very needed, and I'm very happy that they are
Yes.
focusing on that region.
And they're also talking about 3 lakh service delivery agents to be trained as a part of skill development, and then 5 lakh rural workforce to be trained by the telecom service providers to cater to their own needs. Now, that's another thing that I wanted to discuss about. See, we're talking about growing the infrastructure, we're talking about things for the people. Okay, this means that all the departments across the governments will have to be capable enough of doing it, and there's going to be a lot of jobs in the government itself which is going to come up.
Exactly.
I think the other day we were just discussing, now you can be a social media strategist and be a part of the government of Karnataka or government of India.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing that's being added here.
I think we can address that, for people who don't know about India job opportunities. We used to have, everybody thinks that government job is the best bet for their jobs because it is more secure, you get pensions, you get lots of benefits, and it's like casual fun job. Once the IT came into place, which year do you think? Any idea? Like in the 90s it changed.
Yes.
In the 90s it changed.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to get into IT, call center, so it completely changed the landscape. Like in today's world, if somebody talks about government job, we think, why do you even think about it, right? It has completely changed in the past 25-30 years. But I think now it is going back to that thing. It is going to be interesting. Now everybody wants to get into social media for government and politics. It is going to be an interesting thing.
The best part is that if you get into social media, government or not, it's not going to be an easy job.
Yes.
So just because you're getting into the government job is no longer going to get you that comfort of, I can just leave. They realize what a 24/7 thing it is.
No,
And
actually,
government jobs are laid back. Especially in India,
Yeah.
it is very. You go there and to even find that person who's sitting in the desk is
True.
It's very
no,
difficult.
as a part of the Digital India program, they are going to digitalize the whole thing, which means that your attendance in the government sector, you'll have to swipe your card and come in. It's not going to be easy for the governments. People,
It'll take a
working
lot
in
of
government as
readjustment.
well.
They will find a way.
Okay. The seventh pillar they're going to talk about is e-governance. They're talking about guiding principles for reforming government using technology. They're talking about electronic databases. They're talking about workflow automation inside the government, where it's transparent and it's available for the public to ensure that hey, your record has gone here. It has to move through 5 other departments, and this is where it is like right now. Okay, and they're also talking about a public grievance redressal cell. Everything of this, all these things coming into picture through a Digital India. And then the 8th pillar they're talking about is early harvest programs. Now this is something that actually drew my attention. It's talking about IT platform for messages. It's talking about government greetings to be e-greetings, where government is going to talk about giving e-greetings during occasions to the public, and that's going to be digitized. They're talking about biometric attendances, as I said, government offices to have biometric attendances. They're talking about Wi-Fi in all universities, secure email within the government, standardized government email design, public Wi-Fi hotspots, school books to be as e-books so that people can reach it anywhere in the world, SMS-based weather information, disaster alerts, etc., especially for the farmers, and national portal for lost and found children.
Wow.
That's a lot of things are happening under, early harvest programs, where it promises a lot for a common man or a citizen of India. And the ninth pillar they're talking about is e-Kranti. Okay, now Kranti in Hindi, in Kannada, in a lot of languages, in Indian languages, means revolution. So they're talking about electronic revolution that's going to happen, and they're talking about technology for education, for farmers, for security, for healthcare, financial inclusion, justice, planning, and cyber security, which means every system in India is going to be completely transparent. People can know exactly what is happening where and at what moment, provided they just have an internet connection and they're digitally literate. So I must say, this program is carefully, so well tailor-made. They have probably thought about everything that is there when it comes to a digital India. So when you look at these 9 pillars of a digital India, what is your take on this, Suresh?
It's just exciting in a way.
It's overwhelming.
Yes, overwhelming. At the same time, I'm looking at the reality. How soon this can happen, and what are the things. Even if they take this initiative and very few of these things are implemented, excellent. That's what I'm hoping for.
Perfect. Monica, what about you?
The one pillar that I'm very keen on is the e-governance one, because I think that is totally in their hands.
Right.
That is something which is doable. That is something they can show returns of in a short time. I'll give you a simple example. I went for the renewal of my license and I checked their website to see what all documents I needed. I wanted to be over prepared because this is what we do. You don't want to keep running. So there they had mentioned that if you're under the age of 40, you don't need a medical certificate. If you're above 40, you need a medical certificate. So I went there without a medical certificate. He looked at me, he just said, get a medical certificate. I said, it's written there. He didn't even talk to me, he just said, get a medical certificate. I went to get the medical certificate from a guy who was sitting in a small community clinic. He just asked me, are your eyes alright? I said yes, and he wrote, very good. And that was how I was passed. So these are the things at the ground level.
Right.
So digitizing it and replicating it on a digital platform is not going to help anyone. There are other things which need to be done.
Right.
Very good
and
point.
There is some accountability that has to be put in, which is currently not there. I paid with the challan. I was not allowed to collect the receipt. I tried to take a picture so I have proof of what I have paid for, and they got very angry that it's a government document. This is for a renewal of a license, which is a very small thing.
Right.
Consider how much people go through to get things like even a death certificate through. So just digitizing it, if it can lead to accountability and transparency and tracking, then yeah.
Right.
But if it replicates the same thing,
it doesn't
and it's no use.
sense.
In the upper level, they are taking so much of initiative, and when it comes to people who are, when there is people involved, it's not backed up with that technology part. That's sad.
Yeah.
And that's a reality here. I think not only from the top level, also from the ground level, if they give training, I think that's one of the things that...
Yeah. Another thing is, if you see, the passports today have become a lot better because of the digitization.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that if they can follow a similar model, and there the people from TCS are there. They are the guys who are actually doing it. So it'll have to be a mix. It just cannot be government employees alone. It'll have to be a mix of government employees and IT people.
Correct.
And the private-public combination will only work. I don't think that only government only...
Yes,
I don't think
agree.
that will work.
Well, Digital India is promising about delivering good governance to citizens by synchronized and coordinated engagement with both central government and state government. So as you rightly mentioned, I'm hoping that this whole effort is going to trickle down to a grassroots level. And also, as you rightly mentioned, it would be great if people who are taking up the services are digitally literate to understand what can they do about these things in the government. Okay, if they're not able to do it government wise, at least the person should be literate enough to understand what he or she can do about it. So I'm hoping that Digital India literacy will bring about this huge change that we're looking at. I still remember talking to a couple of members in digital world just about 2 years ago. All that they talked about was, how US takes, or any other place takes, a lot of time to move from one medium to another. Okay, and it's like about a decade to move from communication to a smartphone. Okay, in India it took 2 years. So we are late adapters, definitely yes, but when we start adapting, it's almost like overnight. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
true.
definitely crazy. That's how it starts off. So I'm hoping that Digital India will be accepted by all of us. And at Web Marketing Academy, we call out to all the people who are wanting to involve themselves in Digital India to be volunteers. Write to the government. They will let you know what kind of volunteering we can do. And if you have programs for Digital India, please walk into Web Marketing Academy or get in touch with us. We are definitely happy to help, simply because we have so many digitally literate people in Web Marketing Academy India right now.
Exactly.
Okay, so please do come, and we are willing to help. Do let us know how we can help.
Okay.
And there's a LinkedIn platform, crowdsourcing platform they've started off for e-governance initiatives, where they are opening up a question like how should the scholarship program be changed, and then there are people getting back. I just hope these are wonderful ways of getting genuine feedback. I hope it is taken in the right sense. It should not be a social media, we've taken social media, we launched a campaign and then you do nothing with it.
Right.
The whole point is that you take the feedback and you incorporate it into the actual campaigns. So I hope that is what will happen.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the digital dialogue by our Prime Minister. For those who are not aware, there is a website, narendramodi.in, NARENDRAMODI.in. Amazing. I mean, I love the way our Prime Minister is, into technology, and if you look at the entire, it's mobile friendly. It's got versions in English, Hindi, and different languages. It's good feeling that he's getting into all those things. So in this digital dialogue which we had, he talks about 3 S's, that is speed, simplicity, and service. He was communicating with through Twitter and asking questions, and here were some of the things that we say. And, he mentioned the more we learn about technology and the more we learn through technology, the better it is, right? I mean, amazingly he is quoted. And then he said several job opportunities will be created, and he talked about social media. On social media, the future belongs to social media. Social media, not only for any country, any language, any color, any community, it is about human values. And he says it's underlying link building humanity, not the link building that we talk about in SEO. Right? And he talked about governance. Everyone can reach out to 24/7. He talked about startups. It is going to be innovation hub. The entire nation has joined, so that is exciting. And he talks some of the examples, like where he talk about apps. People were talking about apps on waste management, and then e-hospitals. And he just says, he's also curious. On top of all his busy schedule, he is also curious to learn these things, which is what we always suggest to our students and to everybody. Just be curious and just go work out and try out new things, and which is what he is also trying to do. And he said, even though he's somewhere up with the mobile, he's accessible. So it is a good thing to see all these initiatives and dialogues. And he talked about Yoga Day and farmers, rural. So I would encourage you guys, take a look at that one. It will be a good read.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Suresh, for all this contribution. It's been a wonderful discussion here, where we just started off with mentioning what India is, what it is, and how there are 9 pillars which is taking care of each of these things that we spoke about as a challenge. Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us on this show. It's been brilliant talking to you about how skeptical you are as an Indian citizen to even look at Digital India as
I think it's a reality. I mean, we have to accept the fact.
Yeah, it's born out of years of.
Okay, since it's a new show, it would be of great help if you could share your ratings and reviews. Please give us your feedback. For those of you who are listening to us and have something to say, you can leave a comment in the comment section below, and you could also get in touch with us on SURESH, that's Suresh at webmarketingacademy.in. I'm hoping that you have enjoyed this weekly updates. Yes, Suresh, please sum it up for us.
It would be nice to see some iTunes ratings. I think a lot of us are listening from iTunes. It would be nice to see ratings from iTunes and maybe some comments, and we'll be happy to address that anytime. Thank you.
Catch the same time next week. Until then, this is Mansi signing off with a bye-bye.